What is going on, football fans? Juan Green for Inside the Hash is here to bring you the Air It Out podcast presented by Inside the Hashes. I am joined by two of one of my favorite football experts that I know. My circle. I got Chris Thomas on my left, and I got Darren Braxton right here at the bottom. What's going on, guys?
What's good? Big Trash, you know what it is, man.
What's going on? I had a really good Thanksgiving. A lot of good food, and got to watch Dallas get curb stomped on Thanksgiving. So I'm really thankful.
Actually, if for everyone that follows my jersey picks on Instagram, I actually picked the Washington football team and Houston to win on Thanksgiving. So I got to say, pretty good predictions on my end. Not going to lie or tote it or anything. But, I would want to say that Thanksgiving football is always something that we can enjoy. That's why we didn't do a show yesterday, you guys. We wanted to spend time with our families and our turkeys and our macaroni and cheese or whatever it is that you like. Guys, let me ask you real quick. What is the side dish you have to have for Thanksgiving? There's no exceptions.
That's not even a question. It has to be the Big Mac and cheese. If there's no Big Mac and cheese, is it really Thanksgiving?
Okay.
I'll agree to that, but I gotta have my stuffing. If I don't have my stuffing, then it's not Thanksgiving for me.
See, I'm an immigrant, so I'm not really conformed to the traditional Thanksgiving food here. Instead, my family, we made this thing called Coca-Cola rice, where we cooked and boiled, white rice in 2.5 cups of Coca-Cola, and it is amazing.
Say word.
I'm telling you, it is one of the most.
Save me a seat at the table next year, man.
I mean, I'll bring you some. I gotta try
this.
I will. At the next Inside the Hashes reunion, I will bring some for the whole crew to try. All right. But in the meantime, this is not the Thanksgiving podcast. That'd be a great year-round podcast where we can just talk food all year round. But this is not what this is about. This is a football podcast. And with that being said, we're going to start this by going into the rundown. And the first thing we're rolling with today is that on ESPN's debate show First Take, with the co-host Stephen A. Smith said that he is sick and tired of football fans being subjected to watching a mediocre Dallas Cowboys team play on Thanksgiving every year. He said, quote, people are absolutely subjected to have to go on the road and travel to Dallas to play this team on Thanksgiving as if it's some kind of privilege. I don't think they're worthy. I think that they should have to elevate themselves to relevancy. This is the kind of thing that should be reserved for teams that are worthy, and clearly the Dallas Cowboys are not. Dallas has not been to the Super Bowl, you guys, since 1995. They've won their division 7 times in that span. They've been to the playoffs 10 times, and they have a playoff record of 4-10. Speaking of the NFC East, more injury news coming to the Eagles' way as right tackle Lane Johnson has been ruled out for the rest of the 2020 season due to an ankle injury that will require surgery. He said in his press conference, quote, "The inside of my ankle has collapsed," Johnson said. This news closely follows a shakeup in the starting lineup involving Jason Peters and Jordan Mailata, with the left tackle moving back to right guard and Mailata taking over at left tackle, according to NFL NFL insider Ian Rappaport. And then the Bucs are losing one of their top locker room leaders, not just for the season, but permanently as a player, as head coach Bruce Arians told reporters on Friday that backup center A.Q. Shipley has been advised to not continue playing football ever again after suffering a neck injury in the late fourth quarter in their loss to the Los Angeles Rams Monday night. Arians said that, to quote Arians, he said Shipley's playing career is finished and his coaching career has begun. He was a 7th-round pick for the Steelers in 2009, where, funny enough, Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator there. And he finished his 11-year career having played with the Cardinals, the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Colts. And Arians said that it has been his dream, Shipley, to coach after he played. He just didn't expect to have to start it this early. In roster moves, the Texans have released wide receiver Kenny Stills after sitting out Houston's Thanksgiving win versus Detroit. Stills, 28, was scheduled to earn $7 million this season, so he would get a prorated amount from the team that claimed him on waivers. If he clears waivers, he is free to sign with any team of his choosing. He was acquired with left tackle Laramie Tunsil from the Miami Dolphins, and a blockbuster deal in August of 2019 that netted the Dolphins first-round picks in 2020 and 2021, and a second-round pick in 2021. And the rumor has it, guys, that Kenny Stills' top landing spot is the Green Bay Packers, where they are looking for wide receiver help for Aaron Rodgers. And finally, just to conclude our rundown, it is the 13th anniversary of the death of former Washington football team All-Pro safety Sean Taylor. A national champion in 2001 with the Miami Hurricanes, Taylor was selected by Washington with the 5th overall pick in the 2004 NFL Draft. Two-time Pro Bowler, second-team All-Pro safety for DC, amassing 299 total tackles, 8 forced fumbles, and 12 picks in his 4 years playing. Taylor was shot in his Miami home by burglars in 2007, hit in the femoral artery, and died on his way to the hospital due to severe blood loss. Head coach Ron Rivera opened his press conference on Friday saying, "I never had the opportunity to coach Sean, but I did meet him and get to know him a little bit, and I admired his game from afar. He was one of those generational players, one of those guys that come into once in a lifetime." Taylor is survived by his girlfriend, Jackie Garcia, and their daughter, who's also named Jackie. And guys, we're going to wrap up the rundown right there, and I'll just jump start into it. I'll ask you guys this same question. Darren, I'll ask you first. With remembering Sean Taylor, when seeing him play, what's something that you take away from the 4 years that he gave to this league?
I take away how to truly hit a man. Because you got to understand, when Sean Taylor came up to make a hit, he came with complete force. He came with everything he had, and he showed 100% effort on that field. You would never have to question whether or not that man wanted to hit and he wanted to be out there. He showed you in the way he played. So I just take away the ability to hit someone and fully put your 100% effort in.
And then the Ravens had their own hard-hitting safety in Ed Reed during the same year that Taylor was drafted. Chris, your team also had a hard-hitting safety a little bit earlier, though, in Brian Dawkins. And, all three of them played in a time where they were competing to be the top safety. I think those three and Troy Polamalu were in the conversation, and you could always mix up those numbers. So when you watched with Chris, when you watched Sean Taylor play, what is it that you took away from his game?
Back when I was watching the NFC East, the NFC East was a lot much better and a lot more better shape than what it is now. But back then you had like premier, if their defense wasn't great, you had premier guys that other opposing teams fear. Like for the Dallas Cowboys, they always had good linebackers, but the guy you ultimately fear was DeMarcus Ware. For Philadelphia, really great defense, but the guy you fear, going over the middle was Brian Dawkins. And Washington was definitely Sean Taylor. The guy, like, whenever you wanted to, go over the middle, you always had to think twice. And not only that, like, he was also a playmaker as well. The guy always knew how to, stuff the run, make interceptions, but just those hard-hitting, bone-crunching hits. And he's the reason why they took legitimate hitting out of the Pro Bowl.
That's true. That hit against the punter in the 2006 Pro Bowl, I believe it was the reason why they eliminated the hitting altogether. Chris, we're jumping off on injuries there. Lane Johnson out for the season for the Eagles. Terrible mix-up that they have to do for that offensive line. What's your projection going forward for your Eagles to try to protect Carson Wentz?
If you look at the record that Philadelphia has without Lane Johnson in the lineup, I believe Philadelphia's only won 2 games without Lane Johnson in the lineup ever since Carson Wentz has been drafted. But the one thing that I do like Doug Peterson finally doing is taking Jason Peters out at left tackle and finally putting him in at guard. He's 38 years old. He's not as mobile as he used to be. Obviously, with all the surgeries and him just being 38 years old. So him being a guard, him being in this initial push off the line, it makes a lot more sense for an older guy like Jason Peterson going to guard. And you got a guy like Jordan Mailata, who isn't a Pro Bowl guy by any stance. He started playing football like a few years ago. He's been one of our pet projects over for like the past several preseasons now. But when you see him, take over, those times with Jason Peterson IR, he performed admirably. So, like, I think him going forward and then having him next season compete with Andre Dillard for that left tackle spot.
Jerome, it ain't time to
next
thank
year.
yet. I don't.
But
think so.
overall, this offensive line is just a complete patchwork. They really need Howie Roseman or the next general manager that's going to be in charge of it, because I want Howie Roseman gone. They're going to have a lot of their work cut out for them, especially in the trenches.
And, Lane Kiffin should consider himself lucky, though, considering this is just a season-ending injury, not a career-ending injury. Unlike the backup center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, A.Q. Shipley. Darren, whenever you see a big man go down like that, you just hate. You really hate to see something so tragic. What do you think goes through the mind of a player when he gets the news that he can no longer play?
It's always bad whenever you hear that type of news, and especially a guy that is playing well and mainly is in there not only for just his leadership, but because of the injuries that were going on. They already had injuries to their basically one of their almost Pro Bowl guards, who should be a Pro Bowler, Ali Marpet, and Joe Hayes, who came in for Marpet and was struggling. That's why Shipley was in. But you got to understand, it's a devastating blow, especially for a guy that had aspirations of possibly making it to the Super Bowl this year and possibly winning one finally. He's been on a lot of good teams. He was on a Ravens team, the Cardinals team, the Eagles team. He was on a lot of good teams. He was even on the Colts at one point. And he started for many, many years. I know when he played with the Ravens, he was a starter for all 16 games. And he did a very, very admirable job. So I definitely appreciate all of his service. I definitely appreciate watching him play. But like I said, it's always hard to hear you can never play the sport you love again.
And Shipley's career kind of is on track to always being just short of a Super Bowl appearance. He joined the Steelers on the year that they came off a Super Bowl win. He joined the Ravens a year out after they came off a Super Bowl win. He joined the Cardinals on the year that they were so close to getting to the Super Bowl, but got kicked out in the NFC Championship. Now he had a chance with Tampa, who is on pace to even host their Super Bowl should they make it, and now he can't even make it to play. It's just a really unfortunate thing to have done. And, looking over, there's a lot of teams that deserve to go to the Super Bowl, a lot of who have aspirations, definitely in the AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens right now, that old rivalry, those two teams can have a chance to wreck in the playoffs should they make it, but they have to play a game first. And, it's not going to be able to happen if this COVID situation keeps getting worse and worse, you guys, as it was reported yesterday on Thanksgiving, that the Steelers-Ravens game, not Thursday, it was on Wednesday, the Steelers-Ravens game was postponed to Sunday because at least 10 players on the Ravens team had contracted COVID-19, including quarterback Lamar Jackson, defensive end Calais Campbell, center Patrick McCarry, center Matt Skura, outside linebacker Pernell McPhee, running backs J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, defensive tackle Brandon Williams, cornerback Iman Marshall, along with multiple staff members in the Ravens organization. And the reason why this happened is because apparently a strength and conditioning coach on the Ravens roster was not being careful in how he was handling players. He didn't have his mask on. He didn't have his bracelet for contact tracing on. He was violating the 6 feet apart social distancing measures. And apparently he's been dealt with, but we haven't gotten any more information to do with that. Now they say that instead of the playing on Sunday, now that game has been postponed to Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So we're getting Tuesday Night Football for the second time this year, as well as the fact that the Ravens Thursday Night Football game against the Dallas Cowboys, which I might have to be a little brutally honest, no one wanted to watch that, is being pushed to Monday of week 13. So this is a shake-up schedule that is primarily affecting the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to give it to the Ravens fan in this chat, Mr. Darren Braxton. Man, this has got to be killer for you. I know you said it's been a bad week, but can we be fair to say it's just been a bad year to be a Baltimore Ravens fan?
I wouldn't say a bad year because you got to understand we were doing very well, especially up until at least the last 2 or 3 weeks. We were 5-1, and the only loss we had was to the Chiefs. who were returning champions. And our other only loss was to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are currently undefeated. But of the last, I want to say about a month, we've went 1-3. We have 10 players on COVID, including Lamar Jackson, people, the guy that makes this engine run, and some of our better defensive guys, and both of our centers, who is right now going back and forth with who's going to get the starting spot. It's been terrible. I don't want to harp on the Ravens too much, and that's why I have to say this now. I am sorry to the Steelers fans out there. I am sorry to the Steelers organization, because this right here, this is the second time this year the Steelers have had to move games around due to COVID from another team. That team is doing all the things it's supposed to be doing right. It's going undefeated. It's practicing safe protocols. But to have them now have to move multiple games to accommodate for other people's mistakes, feeling a little sorry for the Steelers, man. I don't want to have the game forfeited, but in the risk and safety of health, I'm happy they postponed it at least till Tuesday.
I never thought I'd see the day that a Ravens fan would apologize to the entire Steelers organization. It surely wouldn't happen with an Eagles fan apologizing to the Dallas Cowboys. Would it, Chris?
No, honestly. But honestly, I kind of have to agree with Darren, though. It is kind of unfair because this is the second time that the Steelers did absolutely nothing wrong, and they have to change, how they go about practice, and they have to change, their upcoming games. They had to take an early bye to make up a game, down the line against Tennessee, and now they're doing it against Baltimore. The other issue that I have with is that I felt like they postponed the game, so I feel like in the back of their minds, because it takes about 5 straight COVID negative testing for a player to get off the list and be able to play. So I kind of felt like, they were kind of holding out for Lamar Jackson. But when you look at, other teams like the Raiders, who nearly missed their entire offensive line, had to miss the game, and they didn't have a schedule change on that. The 49ers, they were going into a short week against the Green Bay Packers. They had a bunch of guys not only with injury, but also hit the COVID list as well, and they didn't get their schedule changed at all. So to me, I kind of felt like the schedule changes for them trying to maximize the most out of they can for Baltimore to get healthy, so they can, get the most money out of their most bang for their buck for their rivalry. But as far as Baltimore goes, obviously, like after this past Sunday, Derrick Henry once again put another nail in the coffin for your season. But honestly, after this, the schedule change now, with now Lamar Jackson now being officially out, this is once again pretty much the end for the Baltimore Ravens season. Cleveland's continue to trend in the right direction. You still got Miami in front of you as well. And, the AFC is absolutely loaded with teams well in the playoff picture. And even with that extended number 7 seed, it's kind of hard for me to imagine that even with Lamar Jackson, missing this game and he comes back the following week, I feel like that's way too much ground, and the momentum is now gone from Baltimore to make that up.
And the fact of the matter is that, this is an era, a time of the year in which COVID is going to continue to rise in multiple states and multiple cities. And, that means NFL players are just as much at risk, if not in a higher risk of contracting the disease. And it's going to get to the point where you're really starting to consider, we talked about this earlier in the year, but now we have to revisit the concept. Will there be a week 18 or a week 17 game that these guys will have to play in order to make it up? I would imagine that's an owner's dream, because now you get another chance to make up the money that you lost from advertising your game on national television. So Darren, I'll ask you first, man, when are we going to be expecting, if at all, a week 17 game?
Not this year. Just not happening. I'm sorry. I feel as though the way that they are handling it now is probably the way it's going to be dealt with the rest of the year. If they need to postpone a game and make it a Tuesday night game or so on, that's just what's going to happen. Until they have enough stars from that team able to play, they're going to play. If they do not, as in the case for possibly the Steelers and the Ravens with Lamar out, Mark Ingram out, players like that out, that's why these things are getting postponed. As Chris said, they want to have the maximizing ability to get the most of every game. So if you have to have stars for that game, you're going to wait until your stars get healthy. but I don't think it's going to happen this year. And real quick to Chris, season's not over for us. We've been in worse spots than this. And when Lamar first came in for Joe Flacco, he did go 6-1 to bring us into the playoffs at 10-6. So we're not out of it just yet.
Yeah,
not
but
just yet.
but Trace McSorley is no Lamar Jackson, or neither is RG3 at this point.
True, but we only need him for one game. So, and hey, just remember, last year we beat the Steelers week 17, Lil Lamar.
That was last year though, and that was with the
But they had
debilitating
Mason
Steelers team
Rudolph,
too.
not Ben Roethlisberger and the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers.
Did they have Mason Rudolph or Doug Hodges? Does
Or-
anyone even remember?
They're the same
I
quarterback.
don't.
And no, finish that, man.
All right, but I kind of have to once again agree with Darren. I think it's way too well into the season for the NFL to make some changes for like a week 18 player matchup to make up some of these games. But the one thing that they definitely can do is that they need to have some sort of bubble game, bubble environment, kind of like the NBA playoffs. And I feel like Texas is probably the best spot because you have two dome stadiums. You can have the NFC playoffs and probably in Arlington, and probably the AFC playoffs and probably in Houston Stadium. So that way you have the entire AFC playoffs in one concentrated area, testing every single day. You know where everybody's at. You know also who to test in terms of who gets in contact with. So I feel like if they want to make sure that this playoffs go without a hitch, because nothing is better than NFL playoff football, they need to adopt some sort of bubble concept. They did it in baseball, and they did it with soccer, and they did it with the NBA without a hitch.
I like Texas.
Everything is big in Texas. NFC in Dallas, the AFC in Houston. I can't imagine anything more poetic than that. But, I think we're going to stick here with the AFC North for now. We're going to move over to Cincinnati, and we're going to talk about how bad the injury was to Bengals rookie quarterback Joe Burrow. Let's break this down. We did a little bit of a breakdown on the Running Back podcast with Chris Thomas in 98.5 Radio in Philly, where Joe Burrow tore not only his ACL but also his MCL and has severe structural damage throughout his knee. And he's not the first player to suffer a torn ACL this season. There's a lot of players that are in need of a comeback game. It's Saquon Barkley for the Giants, Odell Beckham Jr. for the Browns, Nick Bosa for the 49ers, Tariq Cohen for the Bears, Devin Bush for the Steelers, Cortland Sutton for the Broncos, Taylor Lewan for the Titans, and Bruce Irvin for the Seahawks. These are players that, this is a season-ending, potentially career-threatening injury for a lot of people. Rarely does anyone ever have that good of a comeback from this type of injury. I mean, of course, we forgot Von Miller too, but he had an ankle injury. Am I right? Was it ankle or ACL? I can't remember. Either way, it was season-ending. And the last player to suffer an injury, an ACL tear of this magnitude, was Adrian Peterson in 2011 in Week 15 versus the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what happened the next year? He had an MVP season. He won also Comeback Player of the Year, and he ran for 2,000 yards, the 10th running back in NFL history, I think, to have done so. And, I want to start out with Chris on this one. Coming back from an ACL tear is horrible. Coming back from a leg injury is just devastating in and of itself. Just ask Alex Smith. That took 2 years to do it. What do you think is going to happen to Joe Burrow when and if he comes back to the Bengals?
Side note on the Adrian Peterson thing, I was really upset that in Week 17 I understand they got to kick that field goal for them to make it to the playoffs, but I really wanted them to get that ball one more time so he could break that record. But as far as Joe Burrow goes, I saw kind of a similar injury, with Carson Wentz, and it took Carson Wentz nearly 2 years for him to fully get his legs back and, to start not only get enough confidence to not throw off it, but also just run. But as far as, Joe Burrow goes, it's really unfortunate because he was the only bright spot to tuning into Cincinnati Bengals games. And now we got to watch Ryan Finley. But it makes Cincinnati's all season a lot more simpler to do. You drafted a quarterback number one overall, and you did not improve that offensive line at all. So that tells you that all draft, all free agency, you need to get an offensive line to make sure that when Joe Burrow does come back, make sure that he is protected. period, point blank. But as far as Joe Burrow goes, with the rule changes, especially towards the quarterback, they're calling a lot more rough in the passer calls, barely getting any contact, with these quarterbacks. I think Burrow will essentially be fine. But it's still unfortunate for a kid that young and one of the brighter spots of the league so far, to suffer such a major setback like this. But as far as Cincinnati is concerned, I feel like they're doing things in the right direction. They got competent weapons around him. Joe Mixon is a top running back. Once he gets it going, that defense is definitely, making strides to improve. And I think Zach Taylor definitely has a good handle on things in Cincinnati. But if you're the Bengals, you need to definitely prioritize a massive offensive line overhaul for Joe Burrow next season.
And let's not, and also just to make a quick correction, it's Brandon Allen going to be the starting quarterback, not Finley. Just to make that correction real quick. Same person, doesn't really matter. But with this being said, Darren, I know we had that side bet going on about the Bengals beating the Ravens this year. I know I'm gonna have to get the Lamar jersey eventually, but just from the perspective of a division rival, like watching a future opponent who was arguably maybe one of the top 2 quarterbacks in your division, just tell me your reaction. Like, how do you feel knowing that this is gonna be a blot on the Ravens, Bengals games going forward?
So I was honestly looking forward to this rivalry because I liked the kid when he came out of LSU. And surprisingly enough, my 2 fantasy football quarterbacks was Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. For that reason, because Joe Burrow can sling the football. I loved watching him play. He knows how to get it out of his hand and get it out on target to his weapons. But it's definitely going to be hard to watch, at least for the next year or 2, because Joe Burrow's not going to be himself. I see him coming back almost like a Teddy Bridgewater situation when he tore his ACL. He'll take some time. When he comes back, he'll look solid, but not great. But I feel as though it would take at least 2 full years, like Chris said, with the Carson Wentz injury, before he really looks like Joe Burrow. So it's just going to make it a little bit more ugly when we play. But I will say this, though. Joe Burrow, when they finally get an offensive line for him and he can be fully protected like a Jared Goff was when he fully had his offensive line intact, AFC North, watch out. I don't care. I know I'm a Ravens fan, but listen, Joe Burrow can cook it. He can cook it up. And I'm telling you, man, with the weapons he has, as long as they have a good replacement for A.J. Green and give him one good, solid tight end, that team's there. That team can definitely get there with that offense.
And I
don't know about defense.
A lot of people made the argument that Joe Burrow shouldn't have left LSU to go to Cincinnati, which
disagree.
Which again, he was a senior, he had nothing else to go back to, but he should have pulled an Elway and just gone to a better team, which is an argument that I hate here and now because this isn't the 80s. You can't do that anymore. And you're not Eli Manning either. You're not football royalty. So and we sparked this debate, Chris. You remember on your show with Free. Because he was saying that he didn't want Trevor Lawrence coming out from Clemson to go to the Jets should they have the number 1 overall pick. And I was mad. I didn't not like that. So I'm going to bring it out here to avoid the Joe Burrow fate. Should Trevor Lawrence stay at Clemson? And I'll give it over to Darren first on that.
No, I don't think he should just sit out and say, nah, I'm not going. If you're going to be the number 1 overall pick, you're being that for a reason. They're going to think you're the savior, and you're going to have to go and perform no matter what. My only thing is I just feel as though teams that have the number 1 overall pick, if you do not have a starting O-line that's solid, please do not bring in a young quarterback to get hurt or diminish his returns, because that is the one thing that can truly hurt a young quarterback's development every single time. If they do not have a good offensive line or at least competent weapons around them, it's very hard to keep them going and developing. If there's no offensive line, there's too much pressure, there's too many hits going on them at a young time. And then if there's no weapons, he's going to get discouraged and start trying to do too much and trying to make all of the little plays. That is something that you don't want. So no, I don't think it's bad for him to come out, but I think that before you try to pick a quarterback, you have to get that O-line set.
That might have to, and with about $80 million in cap space going forward, the Jets have the third most cap space to work with, so they have to land O-linemen for this season. There's no excuse for Joe Douglas and Chris. Coming from a place where the O-line has just been crumbling around Carson Wentz, what would be your solution if you were the Jets, Joe Judge's, second right-hand man to try to fix this team enough to set up Trevor Lawrence for success?
The first thing I would do is, before everybody knows at this point, the Jets have the number 1 pick locked up. So the first thing I would do is fire Adam Gase as soon as you confirm it, and you bring in an offensive-minded head coach, particularly Eric Bieniemy from the Kansas City Chiefs. Because if you're bringing a guy like Trevor Lawrence and you have like weapons like Denzel Mims, you have Jamison Crowder, a bunch of playmakers. So like get a guy who's offensive-minded, who learns from probably one of the more creative West Coast offensive minds in all of football. Yep, time for Trevor. But definitely put a guy that could put quarterbacks in the best position. Second, more importantly, you also have 2 first-round picks. So after you draft Trevor Lawrence, get the best offensive lineman available. You drafted Mekhi Beckham, who's a solid guy, who's a rookie, but he just can't stay on the field healthy. So make sure that you also get depth as well. I'm not that big of a fan of George Fant, but you did guys pay him a significant amount of money. So get as much as interior line as possible. Also get a running back as well, because I don't know how long can Frank Gore play, but I don't think the Jets are. I think the Jets should cut that vanity project that is Frank Gore's career and get another running back in there.
A lot of people are arguing.
Put Fant to guard. That would be his better spot.
A lot of people are arguing that it should be Trevor first, and then the other 2 picks are just O-lineman after O-lineman. I would make the argument that it's Trevor first, best available O-lineman there, and then maybe Travis Etienne at running back.
Also, before that, you feel offers for Sam Darnold. A team like Pittsburgh, who Ben Roethlisberger has like a year or 2 left. Or like a team like Indianapolis, who knows Frank Wright is a massive miracle worker. You've seen what he did with Peyton Manning. You see what he did with Phillip Rivers, and both with the Chargers and now with the Colts. He could do wonders, with Sam Darnold, with a really good offensive line, good weapons. You can get a competent, a bunch of mid-round picks for him back, so you'll be able to build something around, Trevor Lawrence year 1.
Redskins.
And say again?
Redskins would be a good spot as well. He can go right in the Listen, Washington, I'm sorry. I'm just going to call them Washington. They are a better spot as well, because you got to think they're already out on Dwayne Haskins. Kyle Allen has showed he's not going to be the guy. He's a better backup than anything else. And Alex Smith, after he's come back from an incredible knee injury, yes, he's going to be okay for right now, but we already know he's not going to last too much longer. So they need to have someone in there to truly grow and have Ron run the show for. In order
for the Jets to acquire Trevor Lawrence, they have to, unfortunately, lose out the rest of the season, because the Jaguars are on I'd say a second and a fifth, Darius. Don't you dare undervalue Mr. Sam Darnold, all right? But in order for them to obtain Trevor Lawrence in the first overall pick, they have to lose out, because Jaguars close behind with only 1 win on the full season and no other coming on the horizon. Which brings me to our final topic of the day, our Week 12 game picks and hot takes. This is my favorite segment that I like to do, because we're always trying to one-up each other. And what I want to do is give our guest, Mr. Chris Thomas, the honors of picking his game and his 2 hot takes first. So you have the floor, sir.
I'm going to surprise. I'm going to be a little homer, and I'm going to say potentially the game of the week is definitely going to be on Monday night. The Philadelphia Eagles have some weird, uncanny ability of always playing up to the level of a team that they have no business doing. They did it with Baltimore and they did it with Pittsburgh, and they always, play under, teams that they should beat. So my prediction is going to be, I don't care, Jerome. I don't care.
Jerome is an Eagles fan too, Chris, so you can't blame him.
Okay, listen. My bold prediction, Carson Wentz, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers.
with that string of offensive alignment, you think he's gonna have time to throw that well?
Here's the thing. There's no expectations for the Eagles no more. They are DOA in terms of the Philadelphia fan base, the media. Everybody else has them for dead. I think at this point, every single year, we've seen it for the past 2 years. When the Eagles are left for dead, this is where they play their best. So, yes, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm saying Carson Wentz is going to play the best game of the year, and they're still going to lose by 7.
Carson Wentz throws no turnovers, though?
That's worse than 350.
0 turnovers.
That's worse than 350. I'm calling it right now. That's worse than the 350 take, man. And at the end of the year, we're gonna vote for who had the worst take of the season, and that's in contention because I don't see that happening. I know that Seattle's defense is caca, but at the same time, it's not bad enough that it will let Carson Wentz pass them for 300.
How many times have I heard your guys show you guys pick Cincinnati to beat Baltimore, and Baltimore ends up blowing the brakes off them?
That's different. Baltimore actually had an offensive line. The Eagles do not. What's in your second hot take? I'll let you come back to it, but for now, I'm gonna roll it over with Darren with his game of the weekend, his hot takes.
All right, so real quick, there's a few games I'm looking at. Definitely the Steelers and the Ravens, only to see how that all plays out with everything going on. I just want to see the game and see it played and see who plays. That's first off. Seahawks and the Eagles. I do want to see that game, but it's going to be a 17-9 victory again for the Seahawks. I'm calling it right now. 3 years in a row, 17-9.
Wow.
But my 2 games of the week are actually Chiefs and Bucks and the Bills and the Chargers. Those 2 games look very, very good to me. You got on the Bills, you got Josh Allen, what he's doing with that offense, which is incredible. And then you got what rookie quarterback sensation Justin Herbert, who no one thought would be doing this, is doing with that Chargers offense. And he does not have Austin Eckler for majority of the season, and he's still balling. I love what's going on with that game. So what I'm going to call now for my hot take, or at least the Chargers and the Bills, that game ends up being a more defensive game than anything else. And is going to end 17-14 on what should have been, when they faced the Chargers, a Stephon Diggs touchdown catch to seal it away in the last few minutes. That's how that game's going to end.
You're calling this a defensive scheming play, but you're having Stephon Diggs with the game-winning touchdown?
Listen, 17-14, Stephon Diggs with the game-winning touchdown.
Keep dreaming, Darius. Keep dreaming, bro. That is not going to happen. I'll just shoot this. That is an even worse thing.
That's not happening.
There's no way. That's not happening. You couldn't even do that against the Texans, who have a pretty mediocre defense. What makes you think you can pull that against the Cardinals?
Exactly. My second hot take, really quick. Chiefs even up the score, or what I say, Mahomes evens up the score with Brady, and they're going to be 2-2 after this next matchup. The Chiefs are going to break the Bucks.
That one I can believe. That's
the Bucks. They're going to win by double digits. And Tom Brady is going to throw another pick six.
Oh man, I want to increase that to spicy, but it sounds just predictable enough that it might actually happen because the Bucks are terrible on both sides of the ball. Their secondary collapses when it matters. Their defense, their pass rush is not getting to the quarterback as it was earlier in the year. And Tom Brady, whenever he throws for 20+ yards, is horrible. It's like he's arm punting the whole time. There's just no accuracy and no air going into the zip. Tom, Chris, do you have your other hot take before I go into mine?
Yes, I do. The game I'm definitely going to be interested in also seeing is Bears and Packers on Sunday night. Mitch Trubisky's starting over Nick Foles, and it's kind of funny. The Bears were 3-0 before they benched Trubisky for Foles. So, my hot take is the Bears are going to at least score 30 points against the Packers.
30 points, the Bears. With Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback.
Yes, because Trubisky and Foles are kind of like, same marginal quarterbacks. But the one thing that Mitchell Trubisky gives them another element is if the play breaks down, you got the Smith brothers coming in, Rashard Gary. Trubisky can at least run out of the pocket and make something happen.
I have a Sharpie in my hand right now. If I was over, I would a Mark and right fool on your head, because that's not going to happen, man.
Hey, listen, I'm here for a limited time only, so why not? Listen, why not just throw something?
You're making the most out of your opportunities. Spicy, Darius, please. If that's spicy, you don't have a palate, my friend. And with that being said, I'll give that to you for now. And you're making the most out of your take, so I'll concede to the fact that you're throwing what's trying to stick, and that might be your only take that sticks at this point. For my game of the week, I'm also going to be a homer, but I'm going with the Jets and the Dolphins. And that might sound crazy, but let me explain why. See, this is going to be the start of where we determine how good Sam Darnold actually is. There's no way he has a future with the Jets anymore. I don't see it. This is now going to be his audition tape for all the other teams in the league to try to make a trade for him and value his price. And guys, when you look at the numbers, when you have Flacco starting versus Darnold starting, it's pretty unsettling. With Flacco, this team averages 221 passing yards a game, 13 yards per pass, 2.7 touchdowns per game. He's been sacked 7 times, and he's only thrown 3 picks. Darnold, 174 passing yards per game, 9.3 yards per attempt, 0.5 touchdowns per game. He's been sacked 19 times, and he's thrown 6 interceptions. And that's on 6 starts. This is going forward. He's healthy now. It's been reported that Darnold is going to be the starting quarterback going into the Miami game, and it is going to be his chance to show that he is still a franchise quarterback in this league, given in the right situation. Now he doesn't need to win.
Defense.
What?
That Miami defense, that's a heck of a welcoming party.
It's a welcoming party indeed, but you also got to keep that Miami might also. This is going to be a prove-it game for another quarterback in this game. That's Tua Tagovailoa. All right, so Tua struggled mightily against the Denver Broncos. He was 11 for 20, only for 83 yards, and threw a touchdown. And apparently, he had suffered a thumb injury on Wednesday of that week, but it was not disclosed on the injury report. So this is now the chance to show whether or not Tua is injured or if he was just faltering against the Denver Broncos last week. And against the Jets defense, it should be easy. But keep in mind, the Jets defense isn't as mediocre as it seems. Yes, they are 28th ranked overall. They are 30th against the pass, but on the ground, they're 11th. They only average about 90. They only allow 95 yards rushing per game. That's actually pretty good for a Miami offense that is based solely on the run. And my prediction for the game is going to be simple. I say that between Tua and Darnold, they will only pass combined for 300 yards. It will be that bad. Neither one of them is going to surpass 200 for that matter. Yeah, it's going to be that terrible. And it'll be Tua, the one that throws more. I say at least 175 for Tua. And then my second hot take, it will involve the no, it's not even a hot take for a game. It's a coaching hot take. And I say that after the Carolina Panthers after the Detroit Lions go have their game this week, and they lose, because I know they're going to lose. Who do the Lions play against? I can't remember. Let me just check the schedule.
This upcoming week or the week?
This upcoming week.
Because they already got beat down.
Yeah, so the week after. So week 13.
The Bears.
All right, so they play the Bears in week 13. I predict that Matt Patricia will be fired before that game happens, because this is just ridiculous. All right, Matt Patricia has been the head coach for the Lions for the past 3 years. He's lost 29 games for the Detroit Lions. When Jim Caldwell was the head coach, they never lost more than 9 games in a season, and it took him 40 years to reach even 28 losses. All right, he could win 24 straight games in a row and still have more losses than Jim Caldwell. That's how bad Matt Patricia has done for the Detroit Lions. It is, and I think I speak for everyone in Detroit, the media, and even Eagles cornerback Darius Slay when I say Matt Patricia deserves to be fired.
Reggie Bush and Dan Orlovsky said the same thing. Should never look out like Jim Caldwell.
Real quick, 2 quick last comments. One, when you average 9 wins a season in the NFL, you should not be losing your job. I don't care who you are. If you're as a coach, if you're averaging at least 9 wins a season, you should not be fired and then get replaced with someone that's averaging 3 to 4 wins a season. That is ridiculous. And 2, another hot take. Sam Darnold might end up being the next Josh Rosen.
Oh, don't.
If he's playing bad, he's on a bad team, and if he gets sent to another bad situation,
that hurt.
I'm just saying.
My heart.
I'm just saying.
My heart
I don't
hurts.
wish it on Sam Darnold because I didn't wish it on Josh Rosen. But the way it's going,
I like Rosen too.
those things are starting to tumble on down, unfortunately, man.
I think the only way he can avoid that situation is with a good coach. And in places like in Pittsburgh, places like Indianapolis, Washington, even San Francisco, those are all quality head coaches there. With Mike Tomlin, Frank Reich, Ron Rivera, Kyle Shanahan, those guys can actually know how to coach a quarterback and develop one. Just look at what Mike Tomlin did with Ben Roethlisberger, how Mike Shanahan is still managing a good team with Jimmy Garoppolo, how tethered Phillip Rivers is still holding up this Indianapolis Colts team. Like, if he goes to a QB-friendly system, which all 4 of these places are, it could work out for Darnold. But you might be right on that. And it hurts to admit that. It really hurts because there was a point during the 2018 draft where I was trying to convince myself that it would have been okay to get Josh Rosen in the draft. But man, you just went for it, didn't you?
I'm sorry, I had to point out the obvious. And
all right.
when you think about it like this, all of those teams can get a new quarterback, or they have one on the roster that can possibly supplant the starter right now. Other than I believe the Steelers.
My boy Baker Mayfield about to be playoff bound.
Say again? Wait, what?
My boy Baker Mayfield about to be playoff bound.
Oh my gosh! And you know what, guys? That take was so hot; it's giving me heartburn right now. So I'm just gonna have to end our show right here. Right? Yeah, no, it is too spicy. I can't deal with it. Oh man! So you know what? With that being said, we're gonna wrap it up here at the Air It Out Podcast. Major thanks to Chris Thomas for dropping in here today. You can catch his radio show every Tuesday at 98.5 Philly Radio, the Run It Back Podcast. Go check it out, you guys, especially last week's episode where me and Free really got into it. Oh, man, that got intense if you want to check out the Thanksgiving special. And, a shout out to our other 2 guys, Avery Collins and Darius Riddick, who couldn't make it today. We hope you guys were watching. And we didn't target your teams too much, but the next time y'all are on, we'll pick up the slack from there. And guys, remember, for all of our podcasts, for all of our content, you can check us out on our Spotify, on our Anchor, on our Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to audio podcasts. Inside the Hashes is there. You can also check us out on YouTube for our video interviews and our live streaming podcast. Just type in Inside the Hashes in the search bar. You can also find us on our social media. On Facebook, we are Inside the Hashes. On Twitter, we are at Inside Hashes. And on Instagram, we are at Inside the Hashes. And guys, go ahead, jump on Discord, find us, and talk to us, man. We want to hear from you football fans just as much as you want to hear from us whenever we argue about high school football, college football, the CFL, the UFL, which no longer exists, I believe, the Arena Football League, even soccer, man. I will tackle you with soccer facts that come out of the air. And even XFL. That's amazing. We can do XFL again. I didn't think I'd be saying that in 2020, but it's happening. And the NFL too, of course. So main point, jump on our Discord, come find us, argue with us. We'll talk back. We love you. We miss you. We need you. And with that being said, for Chris Thomas, for Darren Braxton, for Jerome Jones behind the glass, and for myself, my name is Juan Pablo Winnie Camargo. This has been the Air It Out Podcast presented by Inside the Hashes. We'll see you next time.
Jersey giveaway. Inside the Hashes, people. Jersey giveaway. Sign up on Instagram or Twitter. Please go ahead and look it up. We are doing something great right here, people. That's right, guys. 3 lucky fans are going to have the chance to win an authentic NFL jersey, free of charge, of course. So the official rules to enter are on our Instagram at Inside the Hashes and on our Twitter at Inside Hashes, on posts on our feed over there. So go follow the rules to enter, and you could have a chance to win an authentic NFL jersey of your choosing. We will be announcing a winner on December 1st.